Hey guys, welcome back to another spooky video. So, I had Izzy come to me asking for a Halloween costume, but I'm sure she still has something laying around. I'm super busy, I can't do it. And then Izzy came to me as a ghost, and she was super adorable and begging me for another Halloween outfit. So let's take a look. So let's talk about the plan. I want to use the basic coat pattern from Danny Chu's website, remove the belt loops, remove the belts, change some of the small things, and make it into a bat coat. So, our first steps are to look at the pattern that we have. So I made this coat in a previous video and I decided I wanted to make this one a bit longer and shorten the zipper. If you want really clear instructions on how to make this coat, I will link that in the description and in the iCard at the top. Okay, so the pattern pieces. I am removing all those little pocket pieces because I'm not adding any pockets this time around, as well as putting aside any of those lining pieces and the belt. So I'm only left with the plain bases. As for this final piece, I am going to remove that pocket just by making a quick pattern so I don't forget. Now it's time for the batwing pattern. So I'm just laying out the coat that I've previously made just to get a basis idea, and I'm tracing out where the sleeve ends as well as the side, just so I've got my idea of what I'm allowed to use. Now I'm going back with the pattern from the sleeve, so you can skip this and just go straight to this bit and trace it out exactly. The reason I traced out the coat was to make sure I kind of got the idea from the sides, but you can again do that by laying out the pieces on their own. And other than that, I am just basically winging it, trying to decide what I want it to look like. I wanted it a bit pointy to go over her hand, and then just a bat wing. Simple as that. Basically, I cut this one out. I only made a really small change later on, which I'll show you soon. Just a little update. So I'm making a little practice one, and this is my side back. I have just gone ahead and widened this a little bit. I do plan on widening some more later, but we'll start with this. And I have lengthened this. So this is the original pattern. And I've gone ahead and added 5 centimeters on there so I can create my, it's more a dress, and I can create the hemline I need. And from there I can just make some more adjustments, but this is just the basis that I'm going to be doing to all the pieces. Alright, so this is what we're looking like. Ignore this gap because that's where the zipper is going to be. This is our bat wing. So I will show you how to do this, of course. My plan does actually work, which I'm really happy about. It does pucker there a little bit, but I'm okay with that. The only thing is I overestimated the length I needed, so I'm gonna take that back. I did check, and I do really like that if I pull this back, let's turn her hand slightly, so that this point will sit on that finger, so I can make like a little elastic loop. So yeah, I will do that. Of course, there will be a hem in here, but I do need to shorten that just a smidge because it's a bit too long. The other thing that I've noticed, I do really like the length of this. I need to exaggerate the points a bit more because with the sewing, it's gonna take it away. So if I've got a bit more curve in there, it will be a bit nicer, although I do quite like this. Other than that, the flared out look really works well. I've lengthened it. I like the length. It is what I was going for, so I think we're good to continue. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I did, as you can see here, just draw where the original length is and then added on 5 centimeters or 2 inches if you prefer. And as for the sides, like I've just added some more fabric onto it. Basically, it's a seam allowance that I've added on there. But yeah, I will give you a pattern if you'd rather, but just flare it out from like the waist and it will be all good. Although I'm seeing here, I think I need to smooth this out slightly, but that's okay. I've cut the hemline. You can also skip this and just do it on your final piece. To finish my custom pattern, mostly because I still need to make this from black fabric, I'm going to be seam ripping all of these seams apart, at least on one side. I already have my batwing pattern, that can stay the same, except for that slight change that I told you about. And then I'm just going to take apart this side only. And it's as simple as literally seam ripping the seams. These are the new pattern pieces I'm left with. So if you want to save this pattern, after like any trial, you can just trace them over tracing paper or just leave them as they are and trace them out from there. And of course, we're just gonna add back those two pieces and the batwing. And now it's time to cut them out from the black fabric. Let's get to sewing. So we're gonna start by sewing the front. So let's get the center front and the side front pieces together. So first thing is first, you wanna lay them out. Make sure you've got the right sides facing each other. That's the important part. Quite honestly, my fabric, I can't see a front and a back. I do my best, but I just decide on the spot what looks to be right. Anyway, with your right sides together, pin them together. Use as many pins as you want. If you don't want any pins, that's fine too. Although that does make it a bit harder, but you know me by now, use your pins. And just a little side note, stay tuned until the very end of the video to get some nice finished result pictures. I absolutely love doing these pictures, so I do hope you enjoy these as well. And I also want to add in there, thank you so much for letting me reach 500 subscribers. Let's keep this going. I'm having so much fun with these videos and I really do hope you're enjoying them as well. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment any ideas down below you may have and maybe give this a share. It really helps me out. And with that, let's get back to the tutorial. I'm just clipping into these curves because I want it to lay as flat as possible. And grabbing the front yoke pieces, we're going to be attaching those next. So I'm still trying to decide what my front and what my back is, but you should hopefully do better than what I'm doing. And we're just going to be attaching those together, lining up the edges and flattening out that little seam in the middle by, putting one half to one side and the other half to the other side. If you'd rather do some overlocking, I neglected that on this whole project because it's Halloween, so it's allowed to be rough. But if you do want to do some overlocking or serging, you can always just add the seam to one side only instead of halving it. Unless you overlock them separately. It's up to you. And as one final step, we're going to fold that up with the seam up. And we're going to do some top stitching, just like we do on the original coat pattern. And ta-da! So now it's time to repeat that on the other side. So now I've got a front piece for the left and a front piece for the right. Oh yeah, we're getting somewhere. And now we're gonna continue by sewing the back. So the first thing is first, is we're going to sew the center back seam. And just remember to leave that little gap for the stand. As you can see, the way that I've pinned it is that little gap is for the stand and just the top is pinned as well. I've just laid the fabric out the way I cut it, so I didn't need to reline it up because I thought they were right sides together. I really do hope you're doing better than I am, but again, it's Halloween, so if it's matching, it's allowed to be. Because that's what it's allowed to be. Yay! And just for easy access for the stand, I'm just gonna do a little stitch on the back, exactly where the gap will be for the stand. So just on the top and on the bottom to keep the fabric nice and flat. And this is what it should look like. Now don't forget to cut your threads. And the next step is to attach the side back. And that's the exact same thing that we've done before. So just taking the pattern off, in my case the white fabric, and I'm going to be pinning that with the right sides together. And again, I'm just winging the right sides, but I'm pretty sure I got it, because this looks like the right side, so yeah. I'm just putting the right sides together, pinning that in place in a few spots. This is a pretty easy sewing at this point, so I'm just doing the top and then the bottom just gets winged. You know, winging it, winging it. No? Okay, ignore me. We'll just continue. Yeah, we'll just continue. So this is what we're looking like. Yay! We've got the back piece already. Oh, almost already. We just need the back yoke. So again, taking our pattern, I'm going to be halving my little yoke piece. Well, you know, once I've found the right side, I'm gonna fold that in half and stick a pin in there. This is just to make sure I've got the center, so I can line up the center with the center of the other back piece. Just to make sure it's nice and even, you know, we like being even. Sometimes. And we're just gonna pin that in place and we're gonna sew that. Now, keep in mind that just like we did for the front piece with adding the yoke, we're going to be doing some top stitching. So it's gonna fold over the bottom seam towards the top and we're gonna do some top stitching. Time for the zipper! Yay! Everyone's favorite part. And quite honestly, I do enjoy zippers. I know most people don't, but I do actually quite enjoy them. And I don't have any separating zippers. I would have loved to have a short black separating zipper, but unfortunately I didn't. So I'm going to be working with the black invisible zipper that I do have, because I like working with stuff that I do have. Because of this reason, I thought it would be really nice to do it upside down since it doesn't open and I do want it to be able to like zip. So I'm going to be zipping downwards and that's what I'm doing. So the first thing I like doing with my invisible zippers is just doing a really basic stitch. Just a straight stitch to get the zipper in place, and then I'm adding my invisible zipper foot and sewing that again. Just moving the needle back into the middle, and I'm just gonna roll it out as I go. There's lots of tutorials if you're confused, and if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below. But this is just the best way that I can think of doing it. Now, because the zipper is upside down, this unfortunately means that I do have like a bit that I can't sew, and I didn't want to move the zipper up any higher because, you know, it's already a short zipper and I don't want her to show too much since this is like a dress. So I'm just going to be doing that by hand and, you know, a little bit of working. As for the rest of this bottom here, I'm just pinning that in place and sewing that just like you would do a normal hem. And with the zipper in place, this is what we are currently looking like. It zips up and back down just like it needs to be. I do have that little pull at the top there, but I'm happy with that. I did do a slight top stitch just to keep that in place. Now I'm just cutting off the extra zipper that I have, and that's it for the zipper. Now we're gonna continue by sewing the shoulder seams. Yeah, you heard right, we're getting to the fun part. So we're doing the shoulder seams. I'm just lining up the two pieces, the front and the back, sticking some pins in there and giving that a quick run on the sewing machine. The shoulder seams attached, we're going to be continuing on with the sleeves. Now the sleeves, because it's a batwing design, is a little bit different. We're going to be sewing the basic of the armhole. We're going to be doing that as normal, but leave like 5 millimeters or something at the ends, like both ends, because that will help with sewing it into the side seam. Okay, so we're just pinning that in place before anything else. And I'm really sorry, I did forget to film that. It's also really hot with the black fabric, but I'm sorry. Like I mentioned, it's just like the top of a basic sleeve. You can find that in a lot of my videos. As for the hemming, I'm just doing a little snip into each end here, folding over the edges, and I'm just hemming just the top bit where like it should end on her fingers. And that's sewn with just a simple straight stitch. So this is what we're looking like. Now don't worry about the other edges, we're going to be working on those shortly. Okay, back to the sleeve. So I do actually recommend doing both sleeves at the same time, because once the sides are closed, or at least this side, it was actually a bit harder to sew the other sleeve in, but I just really wanted to show you how to do this as clear as possible. So I do recommend doing both those sleeves at the same time. Anyway, I'm just pinning the sleeve. It is folded in half and I'm pinning along like my little batwing curves, and we're going to be sewing just those curves. So not the side and not where the hand is going through. So just the little curves that we've drawn before, okay? This is also done with a simple straight stitch. I did do a little narrower hem. So yeah, it's up to you what you want to do. I wanted to keep it narrow since this saves me cutting off some extra fabric, but it doesn't really matter as much as long as it gets sewn. Cutting off the extra threads, we're going to be cutting each of those corners because we want nice and sharp corners when we turn this inside out. You heard right, it's gonna be turned inside out in the next step. Well, almost the next step. Anyway, I'm just clipping into those. I'm cutting some of the fabric shorter where it needs to be. If you're worried about the curves, you can also clip into those. But because I'm cutting the fabric shorter, especially like the bits that I had a bit longer, it is completely fine and you don't need to worry about clipping those curves. But otherwise, feel free to clip those curves. And let's turn that wing inside out. It's my favorite part. So I do like turning this inside out, just pushing each of those little bat wings out. You know, those little points. You can also get like a pair of scissors or any tool that has like a nice sharp corner to help you push those corners out. And as a final finishing touch for this wing, I'm going to be doing some top stitching around those curves. Because my fabric is a bit thicker, this is a really important step. If you have like a nice thin fabric or good cotton, you can also just give this a press and not top stitch it if you'd rather not. But I do really like the look, so I kind of recommend it, but it's again up to you. And this is what we're looking like. So the next step is probably one of the slightly more difficult steps because it takes some looking. We're going to start by flipping the whole thing right sides together with the sleeves in between. So this is where it comes in handy if you leave that like 0.5 centimeters or just like a couple millimeters left for this part of the sewing. So it does take a little bit, just lay it nice and flat so you can actually look where it needs to be, and lining up the armhole from like the two ends as well as the rest of the, dress in this case, or coat, with the sleeve stuffed between the layers. You still get me? Yeah, so we're just gonna continue from where we left off. Best way that I like to do this is lining up the sleeve exactly as they should have been if I'd sewn it properly, and just pinning it down from there. So once you get the sleeve bit lined up, it's actually pretty straightforward and the bed sleeve just falls in place. It's just kind of making sure that you sew up far enough, but then since it's all one piece anyway, there's a bit of more leeway. The sewing is done from that little point where you finish the sleeve, where the first pin starts, all the way to the end with just a simple straight stitch. Unless you're using a stretch fabric, then of course you use a stretch stitch. But that's not about this video. Just a simple stitch is fine for this project. This is what it should look like when it's sewn in place. I'm going to be doing some slight snips into the side seam because it does have a really light slight curve. But again, I just want this to lay as flat as possible, so I'll clip into those just a couple of times. And now it's time to turn it inside out and see how your sleeve turned out. That little sleeve that you see sticking out is actually the sleeve that we just sewed, okay? And there we go. So you can see where it kind of pulls together the sleeve while it gives it as kind of a seamless look at the same time. And with that one done, it's time to do the other one. And like I mentioned before, this was actually slightly harder, so kind of recommend doing these at the same time. Alright, so this is what we're currently looking like. Here is my zipper, which stops about halfway, flaring out. As for the bottom here, I am thinking of just going around and leaving like this rough hem. This is not a really fraying fabric, but even if it was, I think it could look really nice with this, since it's like a Halloween costume. I will be flattening this out, so sewing it flat and then giving that a trim exactly where it needs to be. Other than that, I do have the issue of the collar. Because my zipper is upside down, I don't really have like, how you can widen it here, so I can't really flatten it out anymore. I was thinking of doing a stand-up collar. I will debate what I want to do here, but a part of me also kind of want to leave it rough, like how I want to leave the hem rough, like just to give it a bit more of that costume, like Halloween-y thing. I do really love how this turned out, like it's really tucked in there, but it's also one piece, so I'm really happy about that. As for the back, it looks almost exactly like the front, except that we continued down without the zipper. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead, finish the hem off, and I'll see you in a moment. Did you really think we were done? We're not. I decided to add one final finishing detail, and that is adding some stockings. So let's make some tights! Yay! How? Easy. We're going to be combining patterns because that's my favorite thing to do. I'm going to take the leggings patterns from Danny Chu's website, like the full length one, and combine them with the sock pattern that I used in a previous video, because why not? They work really well together. So I'm just trying to line it up as best as possible, trying to see where it would line up smoothly, as best as possible. And I'm just going to be tracing around both of those patterns. And starting with drawing my center line because I do want to make sure I can flip it around. So yeah, keeping in mind that the tights do have a front and back, I mostly ignored that for this particular pair because I'll tell you that in a moment. So we'll get back to that. Anyway, tracing around that, making the new pattern, great time. And this is the pattern once it's all traced and cut out. Our new tights pattern. It's looking pretty funky, but we'll get to it. So I bought a pair of tights from the store. So these are actually like little, like the footies that go up to the knee, you know. And I've cut that open, and I thought I could use the top of this. But because these are like small, we need to stretch them out. And then we can trace our pattern. And this is the final result. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help my channel out. Leave a comment down below on any ideas and any questions you may have, and I will happily answer those. If anyone does want a nice clear instructions on how I made these tights, please let me know. This video was getting a bit too long, so I didn't include it in this one, but I can happily make another video for you to watch. And with that said, I will see you all next time. Bye!